We'd like to
Yeah.
end the Record Players podcast with something that's about music, but not about records. And the one I've picked for today's show is one that you don't have any examples of, as I understand,
I do
Jack, but
not.
I
Yep.
do.
Nope.
And that is Laserdiscs. If you are sorting around enough record bins, going to enough flea markets and that, you will encounter Laserdiscs within record collections or as part of what's on available at the store, and you may wonder, what in the ever-living heck am I looking at here? Because it most certainly isn't a record that goes into a groove. It's like a giganto CD or something. And
Right.
what this really is, the short version, is an early digital but still analog video medium that came out in the late 1970s, got big in the 80s among home video theater enthusiasts, and then died in the era of DVD, but also is a key predecessor of DVD. And so if you know DVDs, they really, Laserdisc walked so DVDs could run in some ways. But the idea was, this is ones and zeros, but it's read with a laser light, almost like an analog process. As it goes, the disc spins around and it reads through it, and it's almost like a weird half analog thing because it sends it out as a radio frequency and such as well. In most laserdisc players, as I understand it, I am not a laserdisc expert, but I do have a laserdisc player, and really, I would just say if you do come across them, they also have their collectors markets and collectors scenes as well.
They do.
So
Yep.
if you see particularly good or rare, and it'll be a lot of the same kind of stuff you'll see in rare movies, like horror movies, foreign movies, maybe obscure martial arts movies, things like that. A lot of that same kind of stuff, big, and then also big 80s movies and stuff. But you'll see a lot of music that you can't really get elsewhere because it was only released on Laserdisc or home video VHS tape, perhaps at the time.
I had no idea there was even music on Laserdisc.
This one is a concert video performance of from Carnegie Hall. It's a collaboration backed by this person named U.B. Blake. U.B. Blake, at the time of this recording, was 98 years old, and opened the evening with a rendition of his own 1892 composition, The Charleston Rag. And so, from a historical perspective alone, being able to see the person who wrote that song back in 1892 perform it is alone the price of admission. But then it also has Herbie Hancock, George Duke, Stanley Clark, Hubert Laws, Ron Carter, Bobby Hutcherson, Kenny Barron, and the list goes on. So it's like an amazing jazz laserdisc that you can play. If you do want to get into things like that, you can store them the same as records. These do not yet have the storage taken care of them, but I have them here in part because I'm going to do that. But the same rice paper inners and closed or open outers will work just fine for laserdiscs as well. But they tend to be a little
12-inch then.
Yeah, and they tend to be a little more sensitive to humidity and heat than records are, even, so it doesn't hurt to put them in a good seal. Another one along the same lines, and I'm just going to point out a couple others here to wrap up the show, I got for its cultural significance, which is this is a video laserdisc of the Mahler Symphony No. 2, conducted by Leonard Bernstein. And he is a very famous, conductor as well. And so having something like that on video is really good. But it's not all just your kind of nerdy jazz stuff. I also have Madonna, Truth or Dare, the original Laserdisc of that. And this is really maybe the definitive rock star Madonna documentary in some ways. And it's quite the
Huh.
watch if you try to watch it in 2025 here. Lots
They
of
even
concerts.
did.
Now it is video, and these would have also been released most likely on VHS tape. They tend to be full
Right.
frame, but sometimes they're also widescreen. And they've got great sound quality. They really do sound good. So
Yeah, that's I know. If am remembering correctly, that was the big thing. That it was marketed to like an audiophile because they did like the surround sound and all of that. And at the time, that if you wanted the movie theater experience in your home, Laserdisc was the way to do it, just because of the audio, and the picture quality was better than VHS.
yeah, it
I
has
mean,
its
that's
enthusiasts today. There are people
debatable.
today who insist that it's the way to watch movies, even in 2025. I
Yeah,
happen to perhaps disagree with them. I think in an era of
yeah,
4K Blu-ray, it's clearly superior.
right.
But nonetheless, it is it's a trip watching these old laser discs.
I
I want
bet.
to give one final warning though, before you any people who might be watching this who are younger or whatever and think it might be interesting to get into. One thing you need to know, so don't pay too much for your laser discs, is because they suffer from something called bit rot. DVDs have it, CDs in theory have it, although not too often, thankfully, on the part of CDs, but it can happen. But it is rank throughout the Laserdisc world that videos you try to play simply won't play anymore because of the chemicals and the stuff used to make the Laserdisc has just essentially broken down. Whether it's the glues that hold the various layers together, or even in some cases the inner materials itself have degraded.
I think it's laserdiscdatabase.com, I think, has a list, and they'll tell you like which disc suffer from that. And I guess there's some that just like they like don't buy them at all because they just will not play.
If you're looking for a
Um,
Laserdisc player, my suggestion is to get whatever one you happen to find that works, because that alone is a pretty good find these days.
I've never
Yeah.
been able to find one that actually worked. I've always looked for one because it's just something I thought, I'd kind of like, that's like a weird niche thing I'd like to collect, but I've never been able to find a working player.
In particular, though, my actual recommendation is to find a Pioneer. And
Okay.
find the nicest one you can. But a Pioneer is a particularly good Laserdisc brand who has a long history of units that have held up over the years and continue to function with good lasers and
Okay.
things
All
like
right.
that. And they
Yeah.
were one of the initial groups funding the creation of Laserdiscs. So they tended to be in the same way Sony was with the Walkman, the CD
Right.
portable. They tended to have high quality stuff. I have a Pioneer myself, and the other thing you need to know is, just like a record, sometimes you have to flip it. Unless you have a player like mine, which actually has two lasers in it that'll do the work
Oh,
itself.
it'll do
There are
that.
double-sided Laserdisc players, but a lot of them are just like a giganto tray, just like a CD's coming out, and you're flipping that thing over and pushing it back in. So
That's so crazy.
yeah, that's episode 7 of the Record Players Podcast. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. If you're in the car, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook or TikTok, thank you so much. Any final thoughts, Jack?
Buy Laserdisc, I guess.
Well, no, see, okay, well, maybe not though. Let me end that then. I don't
Yeah.
actually recommend people get into
That's
Laserdisc too much. Although if it sounds great to you, great. But I have a small pool, and I used to have a lot more, and I've sold most of it because I saw the disc going bad, and I was like,
I I
it's
actually
not
have some
worth.
DVDs that are like that are no good anymore because they have
You think
the
a
disc
crate of
rot.
records is heavy? Try a crate
Yeah.
of
Oh, I
Laserdiscs.
bet.
It's
I bet.
it's a
It's
monster. It'll take up space. You don't need
it's
it. So
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you talked about Laserdisc though, because I was just in Half Price Books last week, and they apparently somebody either offloaded all their collection or somebody passed on or something, because they had like probably 40 Laserdisc in there, and I'm like, I have never seen these ever in the wild. And all of a sudden I'm seeing like 40, and there was like some decent movies. I almost bought a couple just to have, because I'm like, because they had like the original Nightmare on Elm Street,
Mhm.
And I'm like, that would just be cool to have as like a horror collector thing.
I have a few
But
like that. I have the Road
yeah,
Warrior. I have the
okay.
original release of the Road Warrior from Warner Video, and I've got a couple others as well that I particularly like. Tron. I have Tron as well, and then I've got Star Wars and the trilogy. So